RowErg is typically known for their overbuilt design and well-engineered features, and this rower is in the same vein. This is the RowErg Echo Rower, which is RowErg's newest entry into the cardio space, released about 1 year ago to complement one of the other industry standards in their Echo bike. This rower here features a heavy-duty aluminum frame, air resistance with an adjustable damper, a large 4.7-inch screen with Bluetooth and ANT Plus connectivity, and some really clever design improvements like quick-release foot straps and oversized turf tires for easy movement around your gym. This rower is now even the official rower of CrossFit and the CrossFit Games, and clearly competing with the tried-and-true Concept2, so there may be some questions about long-term durability and how it feels in a direct comparison. I've been getting some real-world home gym usage and putting this through its paces for the last 3 months to see how well it works compared to the Concept2 and other affordable air rower options, so let's check it out. Hey guys, this is Michael with the Jungle Gym Reviews. Today we're reviewing the RowErg Echo Rower, and I want to speak to this as I've owned now this, I've owned the Concept2, and a few other knockoff options. Some are okay, some not. And basically I want to speak to what I think would be the best solution for your home gym, especially from the angle of someone who's more of like a casual rower. So we're going to take a look at this rower compared to the other options, see some of the features. Now, before I get into the review, if you could quickly hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already, it's going to continue to help us grow the channel and make sure you get notified when we post these weekly review videos throughout the rest of 2025. And if you're interested in purchasing this after the review, please check out that affiliate link in the description below. All right, so first off, I want to mention my experience as a rower. I am not a rower. I'm sure I'll get roasted in the comments. I've gotten roasted in plenty of videos in the past. I'm not a rower, nor do I claim to be. But I am a very avid home gym, home fitness, active dad, ex-soccer player, now turned into some sort of bodybuilding, hypertrophy-oriented guy. So I like strength training, I like straight equipment, and I also like cardio from time to time, whether that's some zone 2, whether that's some interval trainings. And that's exactly why I got this RowErg Echo Rower and wanted to try it and compare it to things like I've owned in the past, the Concept2 and some other options, strictly from a more like practical, how well does it work in the real world? What do I think of this as a more outsider looking in, not necessarily someone who's competing or an active rower or anything like that. So first off, I'll say the design, RowErg's typical overbuilt design. This thing looks sleek. It's all black. It looks beefy. Now, the one thing I noticed actually offhand is it is definitely a little bit heavier. And upon looking up some specs, I think this weighs somewhere in like the 70, 75 pound range, whereas the Concept2 weighs closer to 55, 60. And you actually notice that when you sit on it, especially when you do things like interval trainings where you're really like pulling as hard as you can. And this thing does not move. You'll see part of that is probably the frame, the weight. The other thing you'll see actually on the front is part of some of the design choices they made, which are those turf tires. So because the tires are a little bit wider, I understand the actual, side-to-side width is a little bit wider than the Concept2. Basically, just know this thing is solid. It's not going to move. It's not going to tip over. And that's exactly what it's meant to be. I assume since it's made for now the official CrossFit Games competitions and everything, no matter what measly, 175-pound me can do on this a couple times a week, this is going to handle, the biggest, strongest athletes. So just know that even though it's not as time tested as the Concept2, if it's good enough for competitions, it's very likely, good enough for most people in their home. Speaking of the competitions, and I would say like how it feels, how it compares from a feel to the Concept2, from a chain pull resistance, some of the cheaper options I've noticed, that's where you really feel the difference. So when you pull out, especially in this way back in, like how I call this the eccentric, when it snaps back into the unit, that's where the biggest, most noticeable difference is with some of the cheaper options. This versus the Concept2, pretty much identical, at least for me, for all intents and purposes. And I will actually even say, RowErg, if you go to their website and look through all the specs and everything, they basically explicitly say they made this to feel the exact same as a Concept2 to be able to be used in competition settings side by side, because again, we're talking about professional athletes that these competitions have sanctioned and they're used to training or whatever on a Concept 2. They want to be able to go back and forth and basically use these side by side, head to head, have it feel the exact same. RowErg actually had a third-party company basically do some of the engineering and quality control when it came to the pull feel and all of that. So just know, for you at home, for all intents and purposes, this is going to be the exact same quality standards as far as feel, the cable retraction as the Concept 2. Speaking then of the feel, obviously this is an air rower. Again, not an expert. There is a damper in here that you can adjust the different resistance. This just says from 1 to 10. 1 is the lightest, 2, 10 being the hardest. And I understand most people typically go around, I think, the 7 to 8 range. That seems to work for me. Again, feels the exact same as the Concept 2 I had. Other things in regard to the feel, I would say that are different are going to be the seat. So the seat's very firm. There's no real give to this. Essentially feels like a slab, like a rock. The Concept 2 did as well. I probably understand that has something to do with, actual competition rowing. For me, it's very uncomfortable. I don't even last like 10 minutes on this. So you can get any sort of little seat covers. I buy the Concept 2 ones. You can get this on Amazon. It has rubber, which gives it a little more padding. And it basically does two things. One is then makes the seat a little more grippy, especially when you're sweating, so you're not sliding off. And then 2, gives you about a 1/4 inch more cushion here, which then allows your butt not to go numb, depending on your use or, let's say, conditioning, your body's conditioning for rowing. Besides then the seat, the other big, I think, feature here are like the quick release straps. These are much easier to get in and out of than the Concept 2. And I would say a little bit more like noticeably like beefy and durable. Take that for what it's worth, but they're foot straps, they can only do so much. You can adjust the height pretty easily. You're pretty locked in. And then when you're done, press that tab and you're out. So really easy to get out, get in, strap yourself in, and just start rowing. Then the other thing about the rowing, you'll actually see this little gauge here, which is basically a height or a guide that the Concept 2 and other rowers do not have, and it's a chain height guide. So there's a little arrow here and a little slider, and you can basically just adjust the height of this. This is what will help you make sure the chain can stay about the same height, which again, not a rower, but I understand that you want the chain to be about similar heights going out as you do coming back in. And while I may not practice what I preach or that style when I'm actually doing the rowing, I understand that might be something helpful for people to use as like a visual guide to help teach themselves some of the proper rowing mechanics. So then besides, again, the feel, how well it works, the cable feel, just like the Concept 2, I will say super smooth, no real chain vibration. It just feels very snappy, organic, natural. The other main features on here is going to be the storage. Just like the Concept 2, there's a little bracket here in the middle. Pull on. Now you lift, and the center should come up. And both sides come together for consolidated vertical storage. This, by the way, also comes up. So now you can kind of wheel that into a corner, put it somewhere else. The foot pads here do kind of dual as, grips for your hands. And on the front of the unit itself, you'll actually see there's a little like kind of rubber kickstand so that you're not just resting this on top of the air resistance unit. When you want to put it back down, there's actually a little latch here that allows you to push this back out. And as you can probably tell, I don't store it like that because that's a little bit dangerous and annoying. And rather, again, with the little grips here, I store it vertically like this. Now, I know the Concept 2 stores like this. Most people probably store their rowers like this. That way they don't have to mess with any mechanisms or anything like that. I think if I recall correctly in the instructions, RowErg tells you not to do this. I'm assuming it has something to do with liability, but mean, this thing's not really going to go anywhere unless you really put your weight into it. So you really have to try in order to knock it over. And again, it has a little like rubber stopper on the front, so it's not damaging your floor. It's not damaging the unit. I would probably recommend to store it like this, but I'm not liable for legal reasons. If RowErg tells you not to do that, don't do that. But between these handles and the feet, it's pretty easy to kick up and store and move around exactly as needed. So the feet, the rollers, the turf tires, obviously very functional because then it does move around easy. The last thing I want to mention here is going to be the monitor, which is probably the biggest other update and redesign compared to the Concept2. It's what I kind of equate to like a refreshed version, a little bit bigger than the Concept2. A lot of the same options. I'll say the difference with this that I noticed is that it's just a little easier to connect to your phone and Bluetooth. You can do like over-the-air updates, meaning that you can do software updates from your phone connected to Bluetooth here. You also have this little phone slot, so you can put your phone here if you want to, roll along with something, watch a show. But all the modes, games, everything like that to get on and just row, pretty much for all intents and purposes, the same between the two of them. Forgot to mention, this monitor is both Bluetooth compatible, so again, your phone and other Bluetooth apps or devices, and then ANT+, which is like another low-level sensor technology. So things like my Whoop strap will get the heart rate on here with Bluetooth. I think you can use the Peloton app, so just double check their website on some of the other compatibility. It's nice, and even though it doesn't, it is pretty utilitarian, the monitor, it functions very well, and then obviously has third-party integrations. So then comparing this to other options besides core features of, get on and row, changing the damper, how does this compare to like the cheaper options for people who are just interested in, hey, I just need to be able to sit on, go a set distance at a certain pace, whether that's, a 1K, 2K, and they just want to get on, go, do I need to spend, $900 on this? I would say probably not, but the difference between this and things like the Concept2 and then the rest is going to be long-term durability. So this and Concept2 have the exact same warranty. It's 2 years, moving parts and pieces, so that includes everything about the chain and everything moving, some of the slider components, the frame itself, 5-year for this and Concept2. This is something you would get if you care about long-term durability, and then like parts and aftermarket support if you're already going to be spending for this $900 for Concept2 $1,000. The other ones I would recommend, if price is of utmost consideration to you, the only other one I probably would recommend would be the Merrick R50, which again is a clone of the Concept2 in almost look and feel. I've done a review on that in the past, comparing them side by side and literally jumping back and forth between the two of them. And the only real difference you can feel is some of the chain vibration. And so for most people, they wouldn't notice a difference. That one's about $450. Then there's a Signature Fitness $250 one, which literally broke on me actively while I was using it. Chain or something snapped, almost fell off the thing. So I absolutely don't recommend that. So basically your options for budget rowing at home are $450, $900, or about $1,000. If you care about long-term use, if you care about top quality feel, if you care about using it in competition style training modes, etc., this is going to be the one for you. If I had to pick one for me, it would probably be this, because I think it blends Concept2 functionality and durability with RowErg design, aesthetics, overbuilt, everything. The wheels for storage, like I mentioned, this little, rubber stopper here for when either you have it in the folding mode, or if you do it like I told you to do, but RowErg says not to do, in the upright storage mode. This, just gives a little bit of protection and stability there. I don't think you can go wrong with this for rowing, certainly, but you do have other options depending on your use case. So guys, that's it for this review of the RowErg Echo Rower. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer or at least try. Thanks for tuning in to Jungle Gym Reviews. We'll see you next time. Take it easy. Peace.